Welcome to an extraordinary journey across the continent of Africa, where we'll explore the rich tapestry of history, culture, and modern developments that make each African nation unique. The very name evokes a sense of mystery, adventure, and undeniable allure. From the snow-capped peaks of Kilimanjaro to the vast savannas teeming with wildlife, Africa is a land of breathtaking beauty and unparalleled natural wonders. Amidst its abundance of resources and natural splendor, we find stories of hardship, resilience, and the enduring spirit of its people. Africa's story is a complex tapestry woven from countless cultures, languages, and historical experiences. Ancient traditions coexist with modern aspirations, vibrant cities rise amidst ancient ruins, and the echoes of a tumultuous past reverberate in the present. This is the story of Africa, a continent often misunderstood and misrepresented, yet brimming with untold potential. Join us as we embark on this extraordinary exploration, uncovering the heart and soul of a continent that continues to shape our world. Too often, Africa is relegated to a single narrative, defined by poverty, conflict, and despair. This simplistic portrayal ignores the richness, diversity, and dynamism that truly define Africa. From the bustling tech hubs of Cape Town and Nairobi to the vibrant art scenes of Dakar and Abuja, Africa is a continent on the move, brimming with energy and ambition. Africa is a continent of storytellers, where oral traditions preserve history, culture, and values. Music and dance are powerful expressions of identity, community, and resistance. From the rhythmic beats of Afrobeat to the soulful melodies of traditional music, Africa's soundscape is as diverse and vibrant as its people. Africa is a continent of survivors, dreamers, and those who dare to envision a brighter future. Africa is not a monolith, but rather a mosaic of cultures, each with its own unique history, language, and traditions. With over 1.3 billion people and an estimated 2,000 languages spoken, Africa's diversity is its greatest strength. From the nomadic tribes of the Sahara to the bustling metropolises of the South, Africa is a continent of infinite variety. To truly appreciate Africa's richness, we must embrace its diversity, recognizing that each culture, each language, each story adds a vital thread to the continent's vibrant tapestry. Historical divisions, often exacerbated by colonial powers, continue to shape the continent's present. Yet, amidst these challenges, there is a growing movement towards unity, recognizing Africa's strength in its shared heritage and collective potential. Africa's diversity extends beyond its people to its landscapes, wildlife, and ecosystems. Long before Europeans arrived, Africa was a cradle of civilization, home to some of the world's oldest and most advanced societies. The ancient Egyptians, with their monumental pyramids and sophisticated understanding of astronomy, left an indelible mark on human history. In West Africa, the empires of Ghana, Mali, and Songhai flourished for centuries, controlling vast trade networks that spanned the Sahara Desert. The city of Timbuktu, once a center of Islamic learning, stands as a testament to the intellectual prowess of these ancient African civilizations. These ancient civilizations challenged the Eurocentric narrative that often dominates our understanding of history. The arrival of European powers in Africa marked a turning point, ushering in centuries of exploitation, oppression, and cultural disruption. The transatlantic slave trade decimated populations, tore families apart, and left an enduring legacy of trauma. The scramble for Africa in the late 19th century saw European powers carve up the continent, creating artificial borders that ignored traditional territories and cultural boundaries. Colonialism's impact was devastating, disrupting traditional economies and imposing foreign systems of education and administration. However, Africa's story during the colonial era is not solely one of victimhood. Resistance movements emerged, challenging colonial rule and fighting for self-determination. Despite the challenges, Africa is on the cusp of transformation. A new generation of leaders, entrepreneurs, and activists is emerging, determined to shape their own destinies. From advancements in technology and renewable energy to a burgeoning creative industry, there are signs of progress across the continent. The African Union represents a commitment to Pan-African cooperation and integration. The journey ahead will not be without obstacles, but there is a sense of hope. Africa's greatest days lie ahead. The faintest footprints preserved in volcanic ash, Discovered in Tanzania, these ancient imprints date back over 3.5 million years, providing valuable evidence of our earliest ancestors. Africa is where the story of humanity itself began. From the Great Rift Valley, our ancestors ventured out, populating the globe. These early humans crafted tools, developed complex social structures, and learned to control fire. Their story reminds us that Africa is not merely a continent with a history, it is a continent where history was made. As millennia turned into centuries, these early societies evolved, leading to the rise of civilizations. No exploration of ancient Africa would be complete without a glimpse into the grandeur of ancient Egypt. Emerging from the fertile banks of the Nile, Egyptian civilization flourished for over 3,000 years. The iconic pyramids and intricate hieroglyphics offer glimpses into the Egyptians' beliefs, rituals, and daily lives. Ancient Egypt was renowned for its advancements in mathematics, astronomy, and medicine. Their mythology provided a framework for understanding the natural world and the human condition. Their art, characterized by vibrant colors and stylized figures, reflected their deep appreciation for beauty and order. The legacy of ancient Egypt continues to inspire awe and wonder. While ancient Egypt often takes center stage, the kingdoms of Nubia deserve equal recognition. For centuries, Nubia rivaled Egypt in power and influence, controlling vast trade routes. The Nubians, renowned for their skill in archery and horsemanship, even ruled over Egypt during the 25th dynasty. The kingdom of Meroe stands out for its distinctive pyramids and ornate temples. Nubian society was notable for its strong female rulers, known as Candaces, who held significant political and religious authority. The kingdoms of Nubia offer a glimpse into a fascinating chapter of African history. Carthage, founded by Phoenician traders, grew into a mighty empire controlling Mediterranean trade routes. At its peak, Carthage rivaled Rome for dominance, its powerful navy and strategic location making it a force to be reckoned with. Carthaginian society was renowned for its maritime prowess and innovative shipbuilding techniques. Their ships brought wealth and prosperity to Carthage, fueling its expansion and influence. Carthage's legacy is often intertwined with its dramatic conflict with Rome in the Punic Wars. Despite its demise, Carthage's influence on trade, navigation, and military strategy continued to resonate long after its fall. Our journey now takes us to the savannas and forests of West Africa, where powerful empires rose to prominence, fueled by the trans-Saharan trade in gold, salt, and other valuable commodities. The empires of Ghana, Mali, and Songhai played a pivotal role in shaping the history and culture of West Africa. The Empire of Ghana, often referred to as the Land of Gold, flourished between the 8th and 11th centuries CE. Ghana's rulers amassed great wealth, which they used to build impressive palaces and support a powerful army. Following Ghana's decline, the Empire of Mali rose to prominence in the 13th century. Under the reign of Mansa Musa, Mali became renowned for its wealth, Islamic scholarship, and patronage of the arts. Our exploration of Africa's early history wouldn't be complete without venturing to the southern regions of the continent. Great Zimbabwe, located in present-day Zimbabwe, is a testament to the architectural ingenuity of the Shona people. Its massive stone walls enclose a complex of palaces, dwellings, and ceremonial spaces. At its peak, Great Zimbabwe was a major trading center, its inhabitants skilled in gold mining and metalworking. Mapungubwe, situated on a hilltop in South Africa, predates Great Zimbabwe, flourishing between the 11th and 13th centuries. Mapungubwe's inhabitants were skilled artisans, crafting intricate gold jewelry, pottery, and ivory objects. As Europe industrialized, its appetite for resources grew. Africa, with its vast reserves of rubber, diamonds, and gold, became a prime target. The Berlin Conference of 1884 saw European powers carve up Africa, drawing arbitrary borders. Traditional systems were dismantled and replaced by colonial administrations. Raw materials were extracted and shipped to Europe, stifling local industries and creating dependencies. European languages and cultures were promoted, leading to a loss of cultural identity and self-esteem. This cultural imperialism shaped Africa's post-colonial development. Section 2. The Congo's agony, rubber, greed, and untold atrocities. Nowhere was colonial brutality more evident than in the Congo Free State, ruled by King Leopold II from 1885 to 1908. Driven by greed for rubber, Leopold unleashed terror on the Congolese people. Forced labor, torture, and mutilation were rampant as agents extracted rubber. Villages were terrorized, and those who resisted faced unspeakable cruelty. Hands were chopped off, and entire villages were wiped out. Millions perished from violence, starvation, and disease. The Congo's agony, exposed by missionaries and journalists, stands as a stark reminder of unchecked greed and racism. Apartheid in South Africa, a system rooted in racism. While the Congo Free State witnessed horrors, apartheid took root in South Africa. Implemented in 1948, apartheid maintained white minority rule. South Africans were classified racially, with black Africans at the bottom. They were denied basic rights including voting and land ownership. Education and healthcare were segregated, with inferior services for black Africans. The regime enforced policies through brutal repression. The Sharpeville Massacre of 1960 shocked the world and galvanized opposition. Defying colonial domination. The story of colonial Africa is not simply a narrative of oppression and exploitation. Africans resisted colonial rule through peaceful means and armed struggle. Leaders, intellectuals, and ordinary people rose to challenge colonial domination. Figures like Samori Touré and Ya Asantewaa led fierce resistance movements. Their courage inspired generations and showed colonial rule was not unchallenged. The Maji-Maji Rebellion in East Africa exposed the brutality of the colonial regime. Intellectuals like Senghor and Nkrumah argued for African culture and identity. Trade unions and student groups demanded greater rights and freedoms. The story of colonial Africa is a testament to the indomitable spirit of a people determined to be free. The seeds of independence, nationalism, and Pan-Africanism. As the 20th century progressed, the desire for independence grew stronger across Africa. World War II exposed the hypocrisy of European powers, fueling nationalist sentiments. Returning soldiers came home determined to fight for their own liberation. Charismatic leaders educated in Europe led the nationalist movements. Nkrumah, Kenyatta, and Nyerere became symbols of African aspirations. Pan-Africanism advocated for unity and solidarity of all people of African descent. Figures like Garvey and Du Bois argued for a common heritage and destiny. The legacy of colonialism, enduring challenges. The end of colonial rule in Africa was a moment of great celebration and hope. However, the legacy of colonialism cast a long shadow over the continent, shaping its post-independence trajectory in profound ways. Arbitrary borders, economic dependence, and the disruption of traditional institutions created challenges that continue to plague many African countries today. The Cold War, which divided the world into two opposing blocs, further complicated Africa's post-independence development. Many African countries found themselves drawn into the superpower rivalry, with the United States and Soviet Union vying for influence and often supporting regimes that served their interests. This interference exacerbated existing tensions, fueled civil wars, and hindered the development of democratic institutions. The economic legacy of colonialism also proved difficult to overcome. Many African countries remained dependent on the export of raw materials, while their industries struggled to compete in the global marketplace. Poverty, inequality, and a lack of access to basic services continued to plague many parts of the continent, fueling instability and conflict. Reclaiming the narrative Africa's untold stories. Despite the challenges it has faced, Africa is a continent of resilience, creativity, and hope. As we move beyond the colonial era, it is essential to move beyond the dominant narratives that have often defined Africa's story, narratives that focus on poverty, conflict, and despair. It is time to reclaim the narrative, to tell the untold stories of African innovation, resilience, and cultural richness. Across the continent, a new generation of Africans is emerging, a generation determined to shape its own destiny and build a brighter future for Africa. From entrepreneurs harnessing technology to empower communities to artists challenging stereotypes and pushing creative boundaries, Africans are rewriting the narrative on their own terms. The journey ahead will not be without its challenges, but Africa's potential is undeniable. By acknowledging the past, embracing its diversity, and investing in its people, Africa can overcome the legacy of colonialism and create a future worthy of its rich history and boundless potential. The story of Africa is still being written, and it is a story that deserves to be heard. The mid-20th century saw a tide of independence sweeping across Africa. From Cairo to Cape Town, the yearning for self-determination was intense. Colonial flags were lowered, and replaced by those of newly independent nations. Celebrations were joyous, a testament to the sacrifices made. Africa seemed poised to chart its own course, free from colonial rule. Leaders like Kwame Nkrumah inspired millions with their vision. Pan-African ideals fostered unity and shared purpose. Independence was believed to usher in progress and prosperity. The spirit of optimism was palpable, despite immense challenges. These were heady times filled with dreams of a new dawn for Africa. The euphoria of independence soon gave way to the sobering realities of governing newly independent nations. Colonial powers left behind weak institutions. Economies were heavily reliant on the export of raw materials. Education systems were ill-suited to the needs of developing nations. Building new nations from the ashes of colonialism proved daunting. Leaders faced immense pressure to deliver on the promises of independence. In the turbulent years following independence, many African nations witnessed the rise of charismatic leaders who promised stability and progress. These big men, often heroes of the independence struggles, enjoyed widespread popularity and legitimacy in the early years of their rule. However, the allure of power proved difficult to resist. Many succumbed to the temptations of authoritarianism, consolidating their control, suppressing dissent, and enriching themselves at the expense of their people. One-party states became the norm in many parts of Africa, with opposition parties banned or marginalized. Elections, if held at all, were often rigged to ensure the victory of the ruling party. Freedom of speech and the press were curtailed, and critics of the regime were silenced through intimidation, imprisonment, or worse. The cult of personality flourished, with leaders portraying themselves as indispensable saviors of their nations. Their images adorned everything from banknotes to billboards, and their birthdays became national holidays. This concentration of power created fertile ground for corruption, nepotism, and human rights abuses. While political independence brought an end to formal colonial rule, many African nations found themselves trapped in a new form of dependency, neocolonialism. This system, characterized by economic and political dominance by former colonial powers and multinational corporations, perpetuated many of the inequalities of the colonial era. African economies remained heavily reliant on the export of raw materials, often to the same countries that had exploited them during the colonial period. Prices for these commodities were often determined by global markets, leaving African nations vulnerable to price fluctuations and economic shocks. Manufactured goods, often imported from former colonial powers, were more expensive, hindering the development of local industries. This economic dependency had far-reaching consequences. It limited the ability of African governments to invest in education, healthcare, and infrastructure, perpetuating a cycle of poverty and underdevelopment. It also made African nations vulnerable to external pressure, as former colonial powers and multinational corporations used their economic leverage to influence government policies. The arbitrary nature of colonial borders, drawn with little regard for existing ethnic, linguistic, and cultural realities, left a legacy of division and conflict in many parts of Africa. The competition for scarce resources, often exacerbated by government policies that favored certain groups over others, fueled ethnic tensions and, in some cases, erupted into full-blown civil wars. In some instances, colonial powers deliberately exacerbated ethnic divisions as a means of maintaining control. By pitting different groups against each other, they created a climate of mistrust and suspicion that made it difficult to forge a sense of national unity. These divisions persisted long after independence, as different groups competed for power, resources, and recognition. The legacy of colonialism also contributed to weak state institutions, making it difficult for governments to effectively manage ethnic diversity and address grievances. Corruption, nepotism, and a lack of accountability further eroded public trust, creating a climate of impunity that allowed ethnic violence to flourish. Despite the immense challenges faced by post-colonial Africa, there have been glimmers of hope, signs of progress, and a growing movement for democracy and development. Across the continent, civil society organizations, pro-democracy activists, and ordinary citizens have been working tirelessly to build a better future for Africa. In the 1990s, a wave of democratization swept across Africa, as one-party states crumbled and multi-party elections became more common. While democracy remains fragile in many parts of the continent, with setbacks and reversals occurring in some countries, the overall trend has been towards greater political freedom and accountability. Economic growth has also accelerated in many parts of Africa in recent decades, driven by a combination of factors including investments in infrastructure, improvements in education and healthcare, and the emergence of new industries, such as technology and telecommunications. While poverty and inequality remain persistent challenges, the continent's economic prospects are brighter than they have been in decades. Headlines blare about Africa rising, touting soaring GDP growth rates and a burgeoning middle class. Investors flock to the continent, eager to tap into its vast potential. But scratch beneath the surface and a more complex picture emerges. Yes, Africa is experiencing real progress in many areas. However, this progress is uneven, with some countries and regions forging ahead while others lag behind. The narrative of Africa rising often overlooks the persistent challenges facing the continent. Poverty, while declining, remains stubbornly high in many countries. Inequality is on the rise, with a small elite accumulating wealth while the majority struggle to make ends meet. Corruption continues to plague many governments, siphoning off resources that could be used for development. Climate change poses an existential threat, exacerbating existing vulnerabilities and threatening to undo hard-won gains. The Africa rising narrative, while capturing a sense of optimism and potential, must be tempered by a sober recognition of the significant obstacles that remain. Across Africa, cities are booming. Driven by population growth, urbanization, and the search for economic opportunity, cities are expanding at an unprecedented rate. Skylines are dotted with construction cranes, new businesses are springing up, and a vibrant urban culture is taking shape. But this rapid urbanization is also creating new challenges. Slums are expanding faster than cities can provide adequate housing, sanitation, and basic services. Unemployment is rampant, particularly amongst young people, fueling crime and social unrest. Meanwhile, rural areas, where the majority of Africans still live, often struggle to keep pace with the rapid changes taking place in cities. Agriculture, the backbone of many African economies, faces challenges from climate change, limited access to markets, and outdated farming practices. Young people are increasingly migrating to cities in search of better opportunities, leaving behind aging populations and a shrinking agricultural workforce. Bridging the gap between booming cities and struggling countrysides is one of the most pressing challenges facing Africa today. The Youthquake, a generation poised for change. Africa is a continent of young people. With a median age of just 19.7 years, Africa has the youngest population in the world. This youthquake, as it's often called, presents both immense challenges and extraordinary opportunities. On the one hand, this youthful population puts a strain on education systems, healthcare services, and job markets. Unemployment rates amongst young people are alarmingly high, fueling frustration, disillusionment, and in some cases, social unrest. On the other hand, this generation of young Africans is the most educated and connected in the continent's history. They are tech-savvy, entrepreneurial, and eager to shape their own destinies. They are challenging old ways of thinking, demanding greater accountability from their leaders, and using technology to connect with each other and the wider world. This generation holds the key to unlocking Africa's potential, and their energy, idealism, and determination give cause for hope. Section 4. The Tech Revolution, Leapfrogging Development. Africa is experiencing a technological revolution. From mobile money to drone delivery, Africans are embracing technology at an astonishing rate, often leapfrogging traditional development pathways. Mobile phone penetration has skyrocketed in recent years, connecting millions to the internet and opening up a world of possibilities. Entrepreneurs are using technology to create innovative solutions to local challenges, from mobile health platforms that connect patients in remote areas with doctors, to e-commerce platforms that empower small businesses to reach new customers. This tech revolution is transforming lives, creating jobs, and empowering people in ways that were unimaginable just a few decades ago. However, challenges remain in terms of bridging the digital divide, ensuring equitable access to technology, and fostering a regulatory environment that encourages innovation while protecting consumers. Conservation wars protecting Africa's natural heritage. Africa is home to some of the world's most iconic wildlife and breathtaking landscapes. But this natural heritage is under increasing threat from poaching, habitat loss, climate change, and human-wildlife conflict. The illegal wildlife trade, fueled by demand from Asia and other parts of the world, is decimating elephant, rhino, and other endangered species populations. Conservationists are fighting back using technology such as drones and DNA analysis to track poachers, protect wildlife, and monitor ecosystems. Community-based conservation programs are empowering local communities to manage their natural resources sustainably, recognizing that conservation efforts are most effective when they benefit both people and wildlife. Climate change is adding another layer of complexity to conservation efforts. Rising temperatures, changing rainfall patterns, and more extreme weather events are threatening biodiversity and disrupting ecosystems. Conservationists are working to adapt to these challenges, developing strategies to protect vulnerable species and habitats in a rapidly changing world. Corruption remains a major obstacle to development in many parts of Africa. From petty bribery to grand corruption, the abuse of public office for private gain undermines trust in government, discourages investment, and perpetuates poverty and inequality. The fight against corruption is complex and multifaceted, requiring a combination of strong institutions, transparent governance, an engaged citizenry, and a culture of accountability. In recent years, there have been some encouraging signs of progress. Civil society organizations are playing an increasingly important role in holding governments accountable, using investigative journalism, public awareness campaigns, and legal challenges to expose corruption and advocate for reform. Some governments are implementing anti-corruption measures, strengthening institutions, and promoting transparency. However, much more needs to be done to address the root causes of corruption and create a culture of integrity. Africa's place in a changing world. Africa is a continent on the rise, but it is also a continent facing immense challenges. As the global landscape shifts with power dynamics shifting, technological advancements accelerating, and climate change posing an existential threat, Africa is uniquely positioned to play a more prominent role on the world stage. Africa's vast natural resources, youthful population, and entrepreneurial spirit give it the potential to become a major economic powerhouse in the 21st century. Its rich cultural heritage, linguistic diversity, and unique perspectives have much to offer the world. However, to realize its full potential, Africa must overcome the legacies of colonialism, conflict, and underdevelopment. It must invest in its people, strengthen its institutions, and embrace innovation. The world is watching, and the stakes have never been higher. Harnessing the power of youth. Africa's most valuable resource isn't buried beneath its soil, it's the youthful energy coursing through its veins. With the world's youngest population, Africa has a historic opportunity to reap a demographic dividend, a surge in economic growth driven by a growing workforce. Imagine a continent where young minds, brimming with fresh ideas and boundless enthusiasm, fuel innovation and drive progress. This potential powerhouse of human capital can transform Africa's future, but only if harnessed effectively. Unlocking this demographic dividend requires a multi-pronged approach. Investing in quality education, equipping young people with the skills they need for the jobs of tomorrow is paramount. Creating an enabling environment for entrepreneurship, where young people's innovative ideas can flourish, is crucial. Providing access to health care and ensuring a healthy and productive workforce is essential. The innovation imperative, from tech hubs to green solutions. Necessity, they say, is the mother of invention. Across Africa, a spirit of ingenuity is blossoming as entrepreneurs, engineers, and innovators tackle local challenges with creative solutions. Tech hubs are emerging in cities like Lagos, Nairobi, and Cape Town, fostering a dynamic startup culture and attracting global investment. Mobile money, a revolutionary concept pioneered in Africa, has transformed financial inclusion, empowering millions who were previously excluded from traditional banking systems. Drones are being deployed for everything from delivering medical supplies to remote areas to monitoring crops and combating deforestation. Africa has the potential to become a global leader in renewable energy, harnessing its abundant sunshine, wind, and geothermal resources to power its development. Imagine a future where Africa is not only self-sufficient in energy, but also exports clean energy to the rest of the world. This is not a pipe dream, but a real possibility if Africa embraces innovation and invests in sustainable solutions. No nation can prosper without investing in its people. Education, healthcare, and empowerment are not just moral imperatives, they are the cornerstones of sustainable development. Imagine a future where every African child, regardless of their background or circumstances, has access to quality education. Where classrooms are equipped with the latest technology and teachers are empowered to nurture young minds. Where girls have equal opportunities to learn and thrive, breaking down gender barriers and unlocking their full potential. Imagine a future where quality healthcare is not a privilege but a right for all Africans, where hospitals are well equipped and healthcare workers have the resources they need to save lives, where preventable diseases are eradicated and mothers no longer have to fear for the health of their children. From crumbling roads and inadequate power grids to dilapidated schools and ill-equipped hospitals, Africa's infrastructure deficit is a major impediment to progress. Addressing this infrastructure gap is essential for unlocking Africa's economic potential and improving the lives of its people. Imagine a future where modern, efficient infrastructure connects every corner of the continent, where goods and services flow seamlessly across borders, facilitating trade and economic growth, where high-speed internet connects rural communities to the global marketplace, empowering farmers, entrepreneurs, and students alike. Investing in infrastructure is not just about building roads and bridges. It's about building a foundation for a brighter future. It's about connecting people to opportunities, attracting investment, and creating an environment where businesses can thrive. Good governance is the bedrock of progress. It's about ensuring that governments are accountable to their citizens, that resources are managed responsibly, and that the rule of law prevails. Imagine an Africa where corruption is not tolerated, where leaders are held accountable for their actions, and where public trust is paramount, where judicial systems are independent and fair, ensuring that everyone has equal protection under the law, where transparency is the norm and citizens have a voice in shaping their own destinies. Good governance fosters stability, attracts foreign investment, and creates an environment where businesses can thrive. It ensures that the benefits of economic growth are shared equitably, reducing poverty and inequality. It empowers citizens and strengthens the social contract between the government and the governed. Building a culture of good governance takes time, effort, and a commitment from all levels of society. But the rewards are immeasurable, paving the way for a more just, equitable, and prosperous future for all Africans. The dream of a united and prosperous Africa, a vision that inspired generations of independent leaders, is more relevant today than ever before. In a world grappling with complex challenges that transcend national borders, Pan-Africanism offers a powerful framework for collective action and shared progress. Imagine an Africa where artificial borders, remnants of a colonial past, no longer hinder cooperation and integration, where the free movement of people, goods, and ideas unlocks economic potential and fosters cultural exchange, where a strong, unified African voice commands respect on the world stage, advocating for the continent's interests and shaping a more just and equitable global order. This vision of a united Africa is not a utopian dream, it's a pragmatic necessity. By working together, African nations can leverage their collective resources, expertise, and market power to achieve greater prosperity and security for all. Imagine an Africa that is no longer defined by its past, but by its boundless potential. An Africa that is a beacon of hope, a testament to the indomitable spirit of its people. This is the promise of Pan-Africanism, a vision worth striving for, a future within reach. Our journey through Africa has taken us across vast savannas and bustling cities, from ancient pyramids to modern skyscrapers, tracing the footsteps of early humans, marveling at ancient empires, and witnessing the resilience of a people overcoming adversity. It's a journey through time, a testament to Africa's enduring spirit. Yet, Africa's story is not just one of ancient glories. It's a story marked by the scars of colonialism, a period of exploitation, oppression, and deliberate attempts to erase the continent's rich history and cultural heritage. We confronted the horrors of the transatlantic slave trade, the brutality of King Leopold's reign in the Congo, and the systematic discrimination of apartheid. But even in the darkest of times, the spirit of resistance burned bright. From the Mau Mau uprising in Kenya to the anti-apartheid struggle in South Africa, Africans fought tirelessly for their freedom, their dignity, and their right to self-determination. We celebrated the triumphs of independence movements across the continent, the exhilaration of self-rule, and the hope for a brighter future. The post-colonial era brought its own set of challenges. political instability, economic dependency, ethnic conflicts, and the lingering effects of colonialism. But amidst these struggles, we saw seeds of progress, a determination to build a better future, and a growing recognition of Africa's rightful place on the world stage. Today, Africa stands at a crossroads, a continent brimming with both challenges and opportunities. The old narratives of poverty, conflict, and despair are being challenged by new stories of innovation, entrepreneurship, and a vibrant cultural renaissance. From ancient kingdoms to Silicon savannas, Africa is writing a new chapter in its history. Across the continent, a young generation is harnessing the power of technology to find innovative solutions to local challenges, building businesses, connecting communities, and making their voices heard. Investors are taking notice, recognizing Africa's vast, untapped potential. From renewable energy to mobile technology, from agriculture to tourism, Africa is attracting investment and forging new partnerships that are transforming its economic landscape. The Africa Rising narrative, while sometimes oversimplified, captures a sense of optimism and a belief that the continent's best days are yet to come. The world is watching, and what it sees is a continent on the cusp of greatness. Africa is no longer content to be a bystander in the global arena. It is stepping forward, claiming its rightful place, and demanding to be heard. The challenges remain immense, and the journey ahead will be long and arduous. Poverty, inequality, conflict, climate change, these are formidable foes that require a concerted and sustained effort to overcome. But Africa has faced adversity before, and it has always emerged stronger, its spirit unbroken, its resilience undimmed. The future of Africa is not preordained. It will be shaped by the choices that Africans make today. It will be determined by their commitment to good governance, their investment in education and healthcare, their embrace of innovation, and their unwavering belief in their own potential. Ultimately, Africa's story is one of hope. Hope for a future where every child has the opportunity to reach their full potential. Hope for a future where poverty and inequality are eradicated, and where prosperity is shared by all. Hope for a future where peace prevails, and where the continent's rich diversity is celebrated as a source of strength. This is the Africa we have glimpsed on our journey, an Africa brimming with energy, creativity, and an unwavering belief in a brighter tomorrow. It is an Africa that inspires us, challenges us, and reminds us of the boundless possibilities that lie ahead when we embrace our shared humanity and work together to create a more just and equitable world for all. The story of Africa is a story that continues to unfold. It is a story that belongs to all of us. Let us be inspired by its past, be engaged in its present, and be hopeful for its future. For Africa's story is a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit, a reminder that even in the face of adversity, hope endures, dreams take flight, and a brighter tomorrow is always within reach. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and turn on the notification bell to receive notifications when